there was a demonstration against ICE and the things they're doing. And I'm trying to put this as delicately as I can. There are people demonstrating all over the country against ICE. Millions of people. There's going to be a No Kings March, March 28th, that we're going to take part in and ask you to help. There are people in Jersey City, just last week, as cold as it was, dozens of people marched against ICE. But when you look at the composition of the people who are demonstrating against ICE, even here, it doesn't reflect the diversity of the population of our area. So what am I saying? I'm saying if you are physically able, if you have mobility, that you should participate in these ICE demonstrations. And somebody can say, well, President Shabazz, they're rounding up people who are Hispanic. But you and I know that that's wrong for them to do that, first of all. But secondly, we know historically that the people who have been mistreated in this country are people of color. And we know that the mentality that exists in the White House and in people who are pouring into the White House, that they do not respect people of color, and if given half a chance, the same thing that they're doing to our Hispanics, sisters and brothers, they'll do to us. They have done to us. This is Black History Month. Not true because I said, look at our history. Look at the history of the African American people in this country. Look at the history of what people have done. That's what Trump is trying to pull on. I didn't want to go this long, but I think it's important that we say to people, and I know y'all hear, that's their fight. That's not our fight. Let them do that. I'm telling you, it's everyone's fight. Fannie Lou Hamer said, if everyone is not free, then no one is free. And I'm telling you that we have to identify with people who are mistreated, no matter why they're mistreated. If they're mistreated for their color, if they're mistreated for their preference, if they're mistreated for their religion, if they're mistreated for their class, if they're mistreated for anything, we, NAACP, that's what we do. That's what we do, and that's why we're here, and that's why we need you. We have to support that. So if you're available, February 20th, that's this Monday, there's going to be an activity at the AC Monument. The weather's going to be warm. I know it's been extremely cold.
20th is Friday.
Not Friday. When is it? The 16th. February 16th. I'm sorry. February 16th. That's Monday. That's President's Day. 2 o'clock. Please come and join us for a demonstration against ICE. And that's so important. Which leads me to civil rights. Talking about civil rights, we are fortunate in New Jersey because you can demonstrate. We have in Atlantic City, you don't have to worry about the police acting crazy. You don't have to worry about the kinds of excesses that you see across the country. So, President's Day, if you can come out. In New Jersey, we have a very strong civil rights. Yes, sir, bro.
Where's that gonna be again and what time?
2 o'clock on Monday at the monument.
Oh, at the
I'm sorry. 2 o'clock Monday the 16th at the World War I monument at the corner of Albany and Venter Avenue.
Thank you.
2 o'clock. Yolanda Melville, we all know Yolanda Melville was the vice president of the Atlantic branch of the NAACP. She was on the our radio program. This is the radio program in March. She's going to be on there from 5 o'clock to 5:30. And she was our legal redress officer to the Attorney General Stoller. Now she is the director of Civil Rights Division, doing an excellent job, respected across the state. And she's my mentor. She's going to make a presentation about civil rights 2025, civil rights 2026, and the importance of organizations like ours. Let's welcome Yolanda Melville.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I know it's Black History Month, and we often talk about celebration, but I also want to equip us with resources, right?
Yes.
Yes, he's in charge.
Happy Black History Month.
Yeah.
This is 100 years of the commemoration of our history,
Yeah.
often overlooked achievements, but I often say at Black History Month, we should be talking about celebration. But this month, I think, as President Shabazz, you mentioned, this is a time to be clear-eyed about the situations we're facing. Happy Founders Day. 117 years, established in 1909, this organization, in response to anti-lynching, in rooms like this, where people did not have power or resources, we got together. And so 80 years of the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights. We are in our 80th year, 1945, we were established 19 years before the Federal Civil Rights Act. So we're talking about New Jersey and civil rights, we're talking about the federal landscape and civil rights, and all of it is very instructive to today. I bring you greetings on behalf of the 8,000 of us who serve under this banner called the Department of Law and Public Safety, which is known as the Office of the Attorney General. Just to give you a quick lesson, there are 26 different departments known as divisions, commissions, and divisions, and offices that are under the banner of the Office of the Attorney General, of which the Division on Civil Rights is one of them. The Division on Civil Rights, give you more history, is statutorily created, which means it can't be undone except for by law. A division is the highest you can give to a department, and we are a division because we are created not to be undone. What's at stake? We just talked about it. We continue to face persistent civil rights challenges, both nationally and here in New Jersey. And as you know, over the past year, there have been significant rollbacks at the federal level of civil rights protections and staffing. So, similar to what we're experiencing this year, last year, on the first day of office, President Donald Trump issued 2 executive orders. Does everybody remember that?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like, my goodness, what else is new? 2 executive orders that ended discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunity, and really ending government-based DEI programs. I'm prefacing, remember that, right? No real definition to that, what DEI means. Now, the Federal Civil Rights Division, my counterpart, will investigate, eliminate, and penalize DEI and DEIA, accessibility, preferences, mandates, policies, programs, and activities in the private sector and education institutions that receive federal funds. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
This was last year. You hear what's happening in Harvard and Columbia.
Yeah.
We're also experiencing it as far as our programs and some of the funding that we've received. Deprioritize the enforcement of disparate impact liability under our Federal Civil Rights Act. All across the country, departments like mine have had to change the way we do business, how we enforce our laws, because many of us rely on the very federal funding that is being used to enforce those laws. Not here in New Jersey, though. But, as I told my staff, last year when we were getting ready for 2026, I showed them this slide right here. DEI is not civil rights. Civil rights are enshrined in our state and federal constitutions, they are law. So when we talk about DEI, we're not just talking about civil rights. Of course, we have civil rights that are inclusive of the DEI practices that we espouse. But civil rights themselves are ours. They're constitutionally protected provisions of our laws. And no executive order can change what we do here in New Jersey. No executive order can fire me as the director for the Division on Civil Rights, and it can't change what we do. So who are we? I mentioned this last year, if you were with me in July. We are the Division on Civil Rights, created in 1945. Our edict is to prevent and eliminate bias, prejudice, and discrimination in New Jersey. And just for Ms. Hill, before I forget, we do internships for young people. So when you're ready at Stockton, you call me, okay? I have an office right here in Atlantic City. We enforce 3 laws. The law against discrimination, established in 1945, as well as the New Jersey Family Leave Act, and 2021's Fair Chance in Housing Act that helps our formerly justice-impacted individuals. We have 5 units, investigations where we take individual complaints. Anybody ever file a complaint or somebody who filed a complaint with our office? Goes to our investigations unit. We also sue I sue, the Attorney General, we sue when we see policies and procedures in our state that are violating our laws. We have a policy unit that tells us what's happening around the state and how we can impact and shape rules and regulations. And we have our two public-facing units, our Community Relations Unit and our Education and Training Unit. More on them later. We primarily address discrimination in employment, housing and real estate, contracts, for example, and places of public accommodation. We have one of the most expansive protections in the nation when it comes to who we protect. We protect service members, veterans, our protected classes under the Federal Civil Rights Act, race, color, religion, national origin, gender, disability. But we also address genetic information, as well as source of lawful income. More on those later. Here are some examples of places we enforce. Voting sites, we enforce those. Discrimination that happens at the polls, we address those. Hotels and motels, summer camps, law enforcement agencies, we handle those. What is a bias incident? A bias incident is any act which targets a person, group of people, or property because of one's actual or perceived characteristics. I'm going fast because I know you have a long agenda. We also have a counterpart, the Division of Criminal Justice, who handles bias crimes. So when a incident comes through our portal, we have a criminal side that looks at it and our civil side, which is me, who looks at it. Not all bias incidents are bias crimes, but every bias crime in New Jersey is a bias incident. So I always make that distinction as well. I'm going very fast. I'll skip over those. So when you go to our website, bias.njcivilrights.gov, this is what you see. This is our portal. I'll skip over all these and get to the nitty-gritty of things. If you want to talk to me another time about what we do, I can obviously tell you all that. But we issue findings and on allegations that violate our laws. So we do not give legal advice out. So I will put that disclaimer, and we do not comment on ongoing investigations or litigation. With that said, I'll tell you a little bit about what we've been doing. So we've been busy. I came here in July, so this does not include everything I talked about in July. This is everything pretty much post-July moving forward. One of the things we were so proud about last year was our No Hate in the Garden State Youth Competition. We had 233 students from around the country. For the first time ever, we were addressing No Hate in the Garden State. Did anybody remember seeing the buses with the No Hate in the Garden State on the side? Anybody see that? That was us. We made a concerted effort, the Attorney General's office, Division of Criminal Justice, and my office, to go to places where people may not know how to report to us. So we put it in places that we believed it was on radio stations, buses, and we did a full advertising campaign to make sure that everyone who knew who we were. Through that, we also had a competition that we encouraged young people to submit information to us, pictures, ideas, podcasts, that they had. Some of the things that Ms. Hill mentioned in her essay about things she wanted to do. We had students imagine that across the state. And we had winners from across the state. And it was our first time ever. We also have a youth ambassador program where we teach and mentor our youth about how to stand up against hate and bias. We filed a complaint against Amazon. Remember I told you we filed lawsuits? We filed those too. So there were about 27,000 complaints just in New Jersey of disability-related or pregnancy-related allegations. More specifically, what was happening, our workers in our Amazon warehouses were stating that they would ask for a reasonable accommodation. They were either pregnant or they had some semblance of a disability. During the interactive process, which they're entitled to do, oftentimes it was alleged that Amazon would put them on unpaid leave. Then, when they would bring them back, it was alleged that they would put them on productivity standards that they couldn't meet, and they would ultimately get terminated. So over a 3-year period, we received those complaints. and decided to sue. And that actually came from a few different individual complaints that came to us. And over time, we kept seeing the same issues and decided we needed to take the complaint ourselves and sue on behalf of our workers. We also led efforts during the voter protection initiative. I'm sure most people in this room voted, both in the primary and in the general.
Yeah.
Well, my staff, all day, during early voting period as well as on election day, were dispatched to over 200 voting sites around the state of New Jersey. Issues with potential bomb threats, disability access, language access issues, those are ours. So on election days, we are dispatching to make sure each and every one of you can vote. And what I will say to you is, despite what we were seeing from 6 o'clock in the morning when the polls opened, all the way till 8 o'clock when they ended, people were still showing up. And so I want to thank you. Despite the barriers that you were experiencing at polling sites, you voted in unprecedented numbers, and we had, by the time it was over, seamless. We were able to ensure that there were not many reports. People were able to vote. There were bomb threats that were happening, unfortunately, but people were voting. It was a serious election here in New Jersey, had national implications, but people were still voting. We adopted disparate impact discrimination rules. Those are 5 years in the making. I've mentioned to you earlier that there has been a dismantling of disparate impact, which is not intentional discrimination, but a predisposition to a certain protected class of people who, by an action, have been discriminated against. On the federal level, that's been rolled back, where we actually doubled down and passed rules. Second in the nation to do that. And this year, we filed a complaint against Clark Township. Anybody heard that case? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so in our North Jersey part of the state, we were receiving information that the Clark Township Police Department allegedly was conducting practices that had a discriminatory effect on Hispanic and Black motorists based on how they were stopping on certain parts of the Garden State Parkway into Clark. We decided it was enough for us to file a lawsuit. So we are continuing. It doesn't stop here in New Jersey. I can go on and on and on, but take a look. Civil rights is around. What you're doing is very important, and keeping us engaged in what you're doing, making sure if someone wants to file a complaint with my agency, they're doing so, because we do get results. Our education and training unit has conducted over 150 trainings on 16 different anti-discrimination topics in 2025. They've reached more than 7,000 people doing that work. Our community relations unit, who's been here before, over 300 Know Your Rights trainings and presentations. So not only are we doing the work behind the scenes, but we're also out in the community with many of you. And the laws are changing in New Jersey. So these aren't necessarily our laws, but they impact what we do. And just this year, we've had 3 different changes to protections. Although the law against discrimination, the statute that I enforce under the Division on Civil Rights, we've always said that if someone has a public voucher that is denied in housing, it's a discriminatory act. The New Jersey legislature made that a law. So please look into that. This year, a law has been passed that the law against discrimination prohibits households from being denied housing because they use public assistance. We also strengthen those laws. Again, these are protected characteristics that we've always utilized here in New Jersey, but our lawmakers are finding it very important to double down and pass laws that reinforce the same protections that we already say that we do here in New Jersey. Our New Jersey law against discrimination has now been codified to expand civil rights protections to active duty military and our veterans. Again, last one, we now have changes to our Family Leave Act. So at the middle of this year, anyone who's an employer of 15 or more employees now has to abide by the Family Leave Act versus 30 employees. So that is a change as well that you should know. And here's the contact information for my office. But I'm always around. I'm a member of this branch. And I thank you for all that you do. And please stay committed. 117 years is not long enough. Because there's a lot of work. And so I thank you all, and I hand over to you, President.